Hello, my name's Steve Jasper, aka the Jet Lag Guy, and welcome to my podcast, Whatever Happened to Baby Jet Lag?
Whatever happened with baby jet lag?
Whatever happened?
We'll find out. And I am the co-host, Arthur Chen, the chatty curator. Good afternoon, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Arthur. Surviving this summer heat. How are you, Arthur?
Not very bad. Thank you for getting me to co-host a little bit.
Thank you.
And show us your mug a little bit. That is
a little bit of, well, it's not merch yet because I'm not actually selling them, but I think these are beautiful.
Yes.
So I'm maybe down the track.
There
Turn them
you
into
go.
merch, but they've done such a great job with them at Das T-shirt Automat.
Well, I mean, if you I think it would be we should do an open.
And they're
call.
not a sponsor. I just think they're really good.
I think we should do an open call and let people know that if they want the mug to become a merch, leave a comment, leave a like, leave a comment, and share this podcast.
Merch. Or the T-shirt. Should the T-shirt become? I mean, again, this is not merch.
There you go.
Currently,
but
I'm focusing on other things before I do side merch like this. So.
That's true. Well, speaking of that, we are focusing on talking about jet lag for the second episode of Whatever Happened to Baby Paris. Oh.
No, whatever happened to baby jet lag? We've just been talking about Paris Hilton.
I know.
So a little bit of context.
Oh, gosh.
But, you know, whatever happened to her. And talking about Kim Kardashian in contrast. So.
Who knows? But, I mean, you know.
Oh, look, she's doing all right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of another celebrity that's doing all right, well, actually didn't do too well earlier this year, was the musician Calvin Harris.
Well, no, he did fine. No, look, we've got to talk about Calvin Harris.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in my travels as a jet lag consultant, so yes, I invented a profession, well done me, I hear some very useful methods for dealing with jet lag, and I hear some questionable methods. Calvin Harris, king of questionable methods. His hack is he takes half a dozen eggs, raw eggs, onto the plane, and then when he's on the plane, he cracks them, and only eats the yolk. And he has 6 raw egg yolks for jet lag. Can you imagine, right? You're on a plane, you're sitting in your seat, this guy next to you, and he starts doing his Martha Stewart thing and starts cracking eggs, and he does this 6 times. Like, what the...
I feel bad for the people working on the plane and sitting near him.
I feel bad for the passengers next to him.
Yeah.
It's just... That's insane.
It is. It is. Oh, look at me.
I hope he doesn't get salmonella. You know, because
it's the raw.
The whole raw egg thing, I just can't go there.
Well, and
my mother did give me eggnog once as a child. Like, no, this is not for me.
And the other thing is, like, you know, the eggs should be refrigerated and, you know, properly cooked before.
Well, depends on the type of eggs. I mean, dark eggs you absolutely must cook. But dark eggs are a lot harder. Like, you make them into a cake or something, because dark eggs are notorious for salmonella, but dark eggs are bigger. I mean, liquid containers, if you can count eggs as liquid, the top is 100 ml, which I think is about 3.4 fluid ounces in the old measurements, which the Americans still use. But an egg would be considerably less than that. I'm thinking like 30, 35 mils. So I don't think that's the problem. Quarantine laws could be a problem if you were trying to get the eggs into, but if you're eating the eggs on the plane, just the whole eating raw eggs on a plane. I mean,
and the other thing is he's only eating the egg yolk.
Yeah.
So there will be, this is gonna sound horrific, because without the egg yolk, just the egg white on its own, what does it look like?
Let's not go there.
Exactly. But imagine the people working on the plane.
Imagine he comes out of the toilet with his cup full of egg white.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, I love his music. I don't love his method for jet lag.
Well, look, I mean, after the break, that we got to talk about one of the better solutions for
we
it.
got better solutions than raw egg yolk.
And it can
be... Well, it's like my grandmother, back in the day, like she had a thing called pernicious anemia, which I've inherited, thanks, Grandma. And back in the day, the only cure for it was raw liver.
Oh,
So she had to have raw liver sandwiches.
wow.
And my father said, "How can you stand to eat that?" It's like, "Eat this or die." Now it's just a little jab every few months and be good. But
Well, look, I mean, there are so many
so
many advances in this
that's
space.
a huge
so,
advance.
So after,
I'm so glad I don't have to eat raw liver on a regular basis.
no, and also like raw raw egg yolk for jet lag.
Well, I mean,
with a cup of.
No, that's just so wrong.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump back in a moment.
Talk about something a bit more effective.
Steve, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to go on a plane, but you don't want to bring... Steve, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Half a dozen of eggs.
We don't want to take half a dozen eggs on the plane. You don't want to crack half a dozen raw eggs on the plane?
Or having a leftover cup of egg whites.
No. And just it's a whole Martha Stewart experience, really, cracking all those eggs and sorting out. No. So you don't want to be a Martha Stewart. We've got something easier that doesn't involve any produce.
Show us.
So these are called retimer glasses, and I've got to say, as an Australian, these are
one. So Steve, let's apply that into the actual settings. So say if I'm flying to LA, how would the goggle help?
Okay, well there's three scenarios where the goggles really help. The first is if you're wanting to get into the schedule of where you're going, the time zone of where you're going, and it's nighttime where you are and daytime where you're going. So this would be early in the morning in Australia, where even though we're way ahead of Los Angeles in terms of jet lag, we're behind. So you'd put these on, early in the morning before the sun's up to wake you up, and then, it helps calibrate you with Los Angeles time. Another way is if you are traveling for business, often you're indoors, conference rooms, meeting rooms, offices, you don't get out to the sun. And the level of lighting indoors is nowhere near sunlight. So then you could pop these on. This is a substitute, just to explain to people because it'll look weird. These are jet lag goggles, they're keeping me awake. That will help you do that. So that's one thing you can do. And the last scenario I can think of is if you travel to a polar region, say Scandinavia in the wintertime, which is something I did a few years ago now. I went to Denmark, and what would happen, because it was advertised as summer school here, but it was vinterskolen there. And the sun, we'd start classes at 9, then at 9:15, the sun would rise just a bit, and then at 3 o'clock it would set. And I took photos of the canal. And people said, "Oh, was that a sunset?" Like, no, that was the middle of the day. That was as sunny as it got. In that case, you don't have a lot of sunlight to help you, so you can whack these on during the daytime in the polar region, Scandinavia or Scotland or UK or wherever you are, Canada, where there's not a lot of sunlight.
So it's a very useful tool, not only about going on a flight, but in a practical way to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they're practical, and they're so portable. Now they've just redone it. This is the version 3. The version 2 was a lot chunkier. This is much more streamlined. It's smooth. You've got replaceable nose pieces, and you charge them like a telephone. So it's got.
Steve, I got a big question for you because, we've been talking about something kind of playful and things like that. But there's a serious side of jet lag, isn't it?
It is, and it's a lot more than just. See, people think jet lag, you're a bit drowsy during the daytime and you're awake at night. That's true. That's most of what people experience with jet lag. But there are other things. Business travellers, for example, have an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. So there's a whole lot of cardiovascular things going on. Risk of diabetes, increased risk, and addiction.
Really?
Well, people say, "Well, I can't sleep. I'll take something."
Oh.
And they'll take strong sleeping tablets or scotch or something inappropriate, and that's a huge risk. So that's something that I don't think the corporate wellness sector has yet really understood. And I think once corporate wellness understands that, I think we're going to see a transformation, but we haven't seen that yet. And I think that's what I really want to. The other thing is, of course, and this happened to a distant relative of mine, they flew to Canada from Australia, and in Canada they drive on the wrong side of the road. Well, it's the right side of it. So they drive on the right, we drive on the left. So he went to the airport, crossed the road, looked the wrong way, got hit by a car.
Oh no.
And I don't know how often that happens, but it must happen a lot. People walking out of the airport, or worse, they drive. They drive and, start driving on the wrong side of the road.
And it being because one can't it's because they're tired, they're unable to concentrate.
There's a bit of brain fog.
Yeah.
And you're kind of used to driving on one particular side of the road and you're driving on the other. And I remember when I travelled around the world for work, it kept changing. Like America was on the right, then UK was on the left, then Thailand, which I expected to be on, was actually the left. And so you've got to be really aware which side of the road people drive on.
And I think there's another serious effect is that it could be psychological and to your relationship with people around you, isn't it?
Well, now this is something, the psychological stresses. There's people who are prone to bipolar disorder, and it's so far only people, they can get jet lag psychosis. So, and they did studies, started in Hawaii and then they did it in Israel, where people flying west tended to have more depressive episodes and people flying east tended to have more manic episodes. And Hawaii was a great place because most people have to cross time zones to get there. Same with Israel. If they're coming from America or Western Europe, you've got to cross time zones to get there. So, and they could actually there seemed to be a disproportionate number of people who were recent arrivals in the psych ward with an acute psychiatric presentation.
Yeah.
So if you have bipolar or a tendency towards that, it's something you'd really want to get medical support and make sure you've got everything early on so that you don't suffer from that.
It's very important that we look after ourselves because
Absolutely.
It's not only just performing in the workspace but also your life in general.
Yeah.
That like your sleep, your ability to rest and recharge is extremely important.
And this is something I found in my own research, and I haven't seen it published. A lot of people said that coming home, they had much worse jet lag when they left, and that was stronger than the West versus East, which is well known, well documented. For most people, East is a beast and West is best for most people. Few is the other way around. But a lot of people, and this is something that picked up my ears when I was interviewing, they talk about running on adrenaline. And it was that phrase, like, oh, that's something I've got to pay attention to. And what people do when they're traveling for business, and this is not leisure travel, this is specifically business, they will go to wherever, the US or Europe or whatever, and then they have to work, they have to perform.
Push themselves.
Push. Then they get on the plane, come home and absolutely fall asleep, fall in a heap. And they're not present for their partners. If they've got children, they're not present for them. And all that business travel, it's all hitting them. That lack of sleep, everything overwhelms people. And it's a strain on relationships.
It would be.
Because people are getting back grumpy, out of sorts, snappy, sleeping all day. And often the partner of the person who's traveling says, well, I'm living like a single parent. I might as well be a single parent. And one thing that was interesting, one study, this was out of America, they analysed the spouses of business travellers and found that the spouses had increased medical issues.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're
this
kind of
relationship
covering
stress.
for the, they're stressed, they're worried about their partner travelling and partner's not home a lot, and when they're home they can be quite tired. So increased risks for the partners of the traveller.
it's like a roll-on effect, that like a
It
domino.
is. It absolutely is a domino effect. You know, that jet lag doesn't just affect the traveller, it affects their nearest and dearest.
But also that the possibility that if they're going to work right away after that, then their colleagues might suffer. And then
Well, and this is a story I heard a lot in interview. People would fly from here, land at Heathrow
Yep.
at 6:30 in the morning, and have to be in the office working at 8:30 in the morning. I hope they had a shower.
Oh gosh.
I hope,
Yeah.
grab a shower at the business lounge at Heathrow, hopefully. Then you've got to get from Heathrow to your office in London. Depending on where that is, I don't know how quickly, I don't know my way around London very well, but give yourself at least half an hour, I would imagine. Half an hour to an hour to get into the city, and don't even try to drive it.
Oh gosh, no, don't.
No,
Yeah.
no, there are special express trains. I think the Elizabeth line goes there now, so that's a bit better. But
Well, look, I mean, it could be. I think there's a lot that we learn from this episode. For people who want to avoid bringing a lot of eggs on plane, or
you don't take eggs on planes.
Exactly, or having.
Can you imagine if you hit turbulence?
Oh gosh!
You're
All over
breaking
your shirt.
all over the seat, all over the passenger next to you.
Oh gosh! Imagine
It'd be like,
someone shine a black light onto the seat after.
Oh.
Anyway, or if they don't want to have horrible health or relationship consequences, then they should contact you.
Contact me at www.jetlagguy.com.au.
Amazing, and
I'll put the website in the comments.
And they will be able to find your book and your retimer glasses.
The retimer glasses.
And all your other services available.
Well, we've also got the MEQ quiz, morning, this evening, this questionnaire, so you can find out how much of a morning person or an evening person you are.
There you go. And well, thank you for listening to this episode, and then we'll see you in the next one.
See you next time. Thank you.